Cutscenes are a staple of modern gaming today, but you gotta admit that when we were kids and playing games in the 8 and 16-bit days, when a game had an epic intro sequence, it was something amazing. A good intro can be a powerful yet simple thing. I remember playing games on the NES that had these epic sequences like Vice Project Doom, and more famously the Ninja Gaiden games, watching those cutscenes and just being floored by how in-depth they are, and how they fired me up to play. But what about the Sega Genesis? You all know that the Sega Genesis is my #1 favorite game system of all time, so I figured today it would be fun to take a look at some of my favorite intro game sequences for the Sega Genesis, because you all know that once you stepped up to Sega's 16-bit bad boy, you knew you were in for something epic. No rules apply here, folks. One game per franchise and Genesis games only. And quick note, this isn't the ranking of the quality of the games themselves, but purely on the intro sequences, because we all know there are some games out there with some spectacular cutscenes with less than stellar gameplay. And so you can see just why these intro sequences capture my praise so much, for each game that makes the list, you'll see its intro in its entirety. So anyway, kick back and relax, because on today's Level 10, we're going to take a look at the 10 best Sega Genesis game intro sequences ever. I'm G, and welcome to the next level. Some games only need a few seconds to get you excited right before you press the start button. It's all about having a catchy style. Who needs a super lengthy cutscenes when you can hook them at the title screen in just a few seconds, right? Well, the first Genesis intro on today's list does just that. An early RPG for the Mega Drive, sort of Vermillion, or just Vermillion in Japan, could be considered a somewhat forgotten adventure title on the system. Even though it seems to make it into every single compilation Sega puts out, I found that most of their fans don't have a lot to say about it. It's part dungeon crawler, part brawler, with a little bit of Zelda thrown in. Vermillion's dark vibe and excellent soundtrack are really its biggest draws. Other than that, the game is only so-so. Since there really aren't many RPGs on the Genesis, it's worth trying out for some fans, but at least this intro is really something. Come on, you knew a Sonic game was going to make it on this list at some point, but the question is, which Sonic intro gets the nod? Is it the first game with its iconic title music and the signature finger point we all know and love? Or maybe Sonic 2 with its introduction of the best sidekick ever, Tails? Could it be Sonic 3's sweet CG intro where he bursts into the screen with the subtle nod of the two flying in the background? Or perhaps it's Sonic and Knuckles with both of our boys poised and ready to fight. All four of these are awesome in their own right, but which Sonic intro is my pick for the best on the Genesis? Ha! Psych! It's none of these. Yeah, it's not the best game in the franchise, but you gotta admit just how visually striking Sonic 3D Blast on the Genesis was, particularly its FMV style intro, which blew my mind at the time. Sure, it's pixelated, but just seeing it in motion and how much of the screen it took is remarkable, especially when we had Sega CD FMV games at the time that couldn't even be full screen. While the game isn't great, at least we can look back at that intro fondly. It legit looks something like you would see on TV. Well, maybe not as close as. What's probably still my favorite intro sequence of any iteration of WWF, WWE, whatever, of Monday Night Raw, Acclaim and Sculptured Software's rendition of the title sequence from the first intro of the show just knocked me for a loop as a kid, and it's still impressive today. Take a look at it compared to the real thing. They did an outstanding job replicating it for the Genesis, both visually and audibly. Yeah, the game is a slog to play, but the attention to detail is wonderfully done here. It even has great Genesis rendition of each wrestler's theme song. I think I like the rendition of Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy the best. Personally, I think it sounds more accurate than the Super NES version. Hell, the 32X version of the game strangely doesn't have the intro or any entrance music. But hey, it has an exclusive wrestler, Quang! Yeah, not a fair trade, is it? Man, the new generation sure was a rough time for WWE. There are plenty of games that really took advantage of the Genesis's processing power graphically, but kinda suffer in the gameplay department. One development team that comes to mind when I think of this is Syrix, or Syrix, however you pronounce that. Their games tend to look amazing and sound even better, as most of the music for their games are done by one of my favorite composers, Jesper Kyd. Subterraneous still holds, in my opinion, a spot as one of the system's biggest missed treasures, and its intro is pretty excellent too. But Syrix has one other game on the Genesis that has an intro that still gives me chills to this day. Damn. It's hard to believe that this sequence came from the Genesis. No extra chips, no add-ons, just straight from the Genesis. Couple in the ominous music playing to it, and that's a hell of an intro. It's too bad that Red Zone's gameplay itself is pretty terrible. It's mundane, it's frustrating, all in all, it's nothing to write home about. At least it has that killer Jesper Kyd soundtrack. But if you're impressed with what Syrix did with Red Zone here, wait till you see the next intro. It's pretty fair to say that the Caped Crusader's time on the Mega Drive was very mixed. From Sunsoft's original great Batman game, to Sega's mediocre Batman Returns, to Sunsoft's disappointing Batman Revenge of the Joker, and the truly abysmal Batman Forever. Gugh. However, there is one Batman game on the Genesis that is light years ahead of all of those games, not just in overall quality, but also through its stunning presentation, and its intro grips you in perfectly. That is simply incredible and gets you so hyped to play the game. The Genesis Adventures of Batman and Robin has all the atmosphere of the beloved 90s Batman the Animated Series, with the intro giving you a peek inside Arkham Asylum as Mr. Freeze makes his breakout. The colors and the details are absolutely perfect. For the people who talk snide about the Genesis's limited color palette, show them this intro and watch them eat their words. In fact, the entire game is a visual and audio smorgasbord. It's so stunning that it may even be overwhelming to someone who doesn't expect it. And the soundtrack is incredible too. Jesper Kyd at it again with the brilliance. The Genesis Batman and Robin is an experience that I will definitely talk more about at another time, but it's no riddle that its intro sequence is excellent. Licensed games are always a mixed bag when it comes to the 16-bit era, especially when you're dealing with movie licenses. For every gem like Disney's Aladdin, you get a crapper like Last Action Hero. But Sega's own Jurassic Park for the Genesis was a unique take on the formula. The film itself was a fantastic blend of action, comedy, and even some horror tendencies, just as the brief but frightening intro for the Genesis game. This straight up gave me nightmares as a kid. Hearing the roar of the T-Rex and seeing the strobe effect, making it look like he's actually shaking the car, and hearing the thud as Dr. Grant falls out of the car, it's magnificent. The game itself, it's okay. When you're Dr. Grant, that is. The real fun happens when you play as the Raptor. When it comes to presentation, Jurassic Park really got it right, but I will say that if you want the best Jurassic Park game in the Genesis, get the Rampage edition. It's much better. But that intro, that is awesome. I love it when a game comes out of nowhere and completely surprises me. I wasn't super familiar with Turrican as a kid, but when Mega Turrican came out for the Genesis, people kept telling me just how great it was. To be honest, I never really got into it until I was an adult, but the game is fantastic. Not to be outdone by the game itself though, is its stellar intro. Wasn't that amazing? How every portion of the intro seemingly transitions and introduces themselves in different ways. How the comic book style panels are animated, the outstanding soundtrack, which the whole game soundtrack is one of the best on the system. It's all just so grandiose. Again, Mega Turrican shocked me when I first played it, and I urge you to give it a shot if you can. Or maybe Super Turrican on the Super NES if you prefer, but to me, the Genesis game just packs much more of a punch. Ha! Take that, Super Nintendo! If you've watched my channel before, you may already know that I have a soft spot for games with a Japanese anime aesthetic, especially when it comes to retro games. And no company did this for their games on the Genesis quite like the unforgettable people of
Game Creative Staff, Wolf Team.
Now, the team behind Bandai Namco's Tales of series, Wolf Team's games all have a very unique charm to them, even if not all of their games are hits. But I have a huge soft spot in my heart for one particular game of theirs, one that would end up being one of my all-time favorite games on the system, and its intro is a big part of it. It does an outstanding job of telling the story and setting the scene, teasing the characters and the setting with bombastic music to get you hyped for playing the game. And the game, what a hell of a ride. But I'm gonna save my thoughts for it as well as the entire El Viento trilogy in a future treasure chest episode. El Viento's intro as well as its cutscenes throughout the entire game are marvelous. Don't sleep on this game if you see it. Real quick heads up folks, this next entry is a mature rated game that you're about to see in 3, 2, 1, boom. There are a lot of beat 'em ups on the Genesis, but one beat 'em up series I absolutely love is Namco's Splatterhouse. The first and second games were more simple, kill all your enemies and get to the end of the stage fair, but Splatterhouse 3 turned the series on its ear with its non-linear gameplay and tension-building moments. But if you want to talk building up fierce tension, check out its killer intro. No pun intended. Rick's adventures in Splatterhouse were already pulse-pounding and scary enough, but that intro, this seriously gives you goosebumps. How the terror mask plays on you into your journey, how the beautifully eerie music takes you while the Splatterhouse logo crosses the screen, the thunder and lightning in the background, the mini bout of FMV when you see Jennifer turn to you as you fade to black and start your adventure. It's incredible. I feel that Splatterhouse 3 doesn't get enough love today compared to its prequels, and definitely not its reboot. But if we remember the game for anything at all, its intro must never be forgotten. I love me a good dark horse when it comes to gaming. I already mentioned about how Mega Turrican hit me like a ton of bricks with how fantastic the game is and its intro. And you all probably know just how much I love giant robots, and this is yet another game that I didn't play until I was older, but after seeing its absolutely gorgeous intro, I was immediately in love, and why it's my #1 Genesis game intro ever. Wow. I swear I was watching a mini-movie just now. That was just incredible. The lead up through the perils of space, getting to see a glimpse of the robot piece by piece, how it shades into the screen as the intro fades in with the music. Oh my goodness. This could very well be a piece of art. Seriously. I can't put into words just how this intro hooked me into playing the game. But you know what I can put into words though? Just how crappy Heavy Nova itself is as a game. Yeah, it's garbage. One of the worst games on the system. So yeah, while that does take the wind out of my sails just a bit, I won't let that take away from its glorious intro. I mean, perhaps there's another good one-on-one robot fighter on the Genesis. Okay, I guess not. Still, we can't deny that Heavy Nova's intro is incredible. At least you have that, Micronet, for Heavy Nova's intro is my favorite intro on the Genesis ever. So yeah, those are what, in my opinion, are the 10 best Sega Genesis game intro sequences, and I gotta know, did some of your favorites make the list, or did I miss some? Talk to me in the comments and let me know what some of your favorites are, and of course, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and you can talk to me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at G2TheNextLevel, and if you want to be extra awesome and help the channel out, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/G2TheNextLevel. Keep on gaming, and keep being awesome. I'm G, and I'll see you on the next level.